It has to happen without anyone thinking that's propaganda.
In a series of meetings filmed at London hotels, an undercover investigation for Britain's Channel 4 News exposes the secretive data company's techniques for influencing foreign elections.
No record exists with our name attached to this at all.
Senior staff of Cambridge Analytica boast about their track record.
Have you met with Mr. Trump?
Many times.
You have?
Dirty tricks and deception just part of the playbook, according to CEO Alexander Nix.
Send some girls around to the candidate's house. That was just an idea.
Yes.
We'll bring some Ukrainians in on holiday with us. You know?
Right.
You know, so they are very influential.
Yes.
I find that works very well.
All of it designed to mislead voters.
These are things that don't necessarily need to be true, as long as they're believed.
Once the story broke, it made headlines around the world and put Cambridge Analytica's Nix under a scorching spotlight.
Have you ever used entrapment in the past? Because that's what you appear to be offering our undercover reporter.
That's Andy Davies asking the question, part of Channel 4's investigative team on this story.
Andy, certainly anyone who's followed politics knows that dirty tricks are a presence, but to hear it articulated the way it is on this tape was astonishing. I wonder what in particular has struck you most about what you heard?
Well, we had sufficient reason to go in undercover, and so we knew quite a lot about Cambridge Analytica and how they operated. But I think what struck us was in that fourth and final meeting with the boss of Cambridge Analytica, Alexander Nix. He'd previously called our undercover reporter saying he was looking forward to a long and secretive relationship. But I think our investigations team, led by the excellent Job Rabkin, I think they were really struck by just how freely Alexander Nix started speaking when the discussion centred on the issue of digging up dirt on political opponents. And that's when he came in with this scenario, an option, as he put it, of sending in someone posing as a wealthy developer to offer a bribe to this political opponent and then film it and release it onto the internet. And then after that said, well, we could send some girls round to the candidate's house. So all of these were major disclosures at the time and would prove ultimately hugely damaging for Alexander Nix, who's now suspended.
The use of hidden cameras, undercover work, is a feature of investigative work wherever you are as a journalist. But what struck me about this is that you had to go in multiple times with this guise, the stakes being very high if the team was found out. How concerned was your team about the fact that they had to continually have these meetings, fingers crossed that Cambridge Analytica wouldn't figure out what was going on?
As you say, Diana, this was a guise which had to be maintained over several months, over 4 meetings, through email correspondence, with phone conversations as well. So it was a concern. And not only that, this was dealing with a company that is at the cutting edge of data analysis. I mean, this is a company which is very powerful and would have the ability to do due diligence. So it really was a concern that that they might, at some stage, start questioning what was going on here. But fortunately, the guise was maintained, that relationship was maintained, and as I say, the reporters who went in did an utterly remarkable job.
When Cambridge Analytica became aware, I presume because you sent them questions, alerted them to this, and asked them to respond, how did they respond?
Well, exactly. In advance of the broadcast, we, of course, put our findings to Cambridge Analytica, and we got a letter back. And they said that this was amounted to a substantial mischaracterization. And they explained the comments, which you had a flavour of in that package that you played just before this interview, that they explained that by saying that they were trying to tease out the true intentions of this potential client, in other words, our undercover reporter, that they were trying to assess what the reputational risk might be. So this was all a tactical ploy. And then they went on to say in this letter that after that last meeting, they left with very grave concerns about this client. Well, that was on the 16th of January, I can tell you, that final meeting. And we know that 7 weeks later, they were still writing to our undercover reporter, asking, so, you know, what's going on with this? And I quote, they called it impending partnership. So they were still chasing. They were still apparently keen at that stage.
You know, as a journalist who's written a few scripts as well, I noted the line at the end of each of the reports in this series saying, we don't know if it's true what they're saying, what they claim is their modus operandi. It could be bravado, but I'm wondering, based on the research, what you believe.
Well, it's really difficult, this. It was a line that I think myself and Kylie Morris, who was involved in the US part of this undercover investigation, she wrote that into her script as well. And we don't know. It's difficult to establish. I mean, they're trying to get a contract here, so there's bound to be a bit of bravado in that sales pitch. But what's very interesting, yesterday, the Times newspaper released a video which they said, it's on YouTube, they said showed in 2010 a politician in St. Kitts and Nevis being set up in an undercover sting where someone went in posing as a wealthy land developer, offering this politician a bribe in return for funding his political campaign. They blanked out the person posing as a wealthy developer and put it on the internet. And that mirrored not exactly, but that was uncharacteristically similar to the scenario that Alexander Nix was describing to us. And the allegation is that that video from St. Kitts and Nevis showing this in action was directed by a company called SCL, the parent company of Cambridge Analytica. Now, this is an allegation, and we've put it to Cambridge Analytica and SCL, and we haven't heard back from SCL on this. But if that's found to be true, that there is any link there, then it does undermine the strand of thought which might say this was pure bravado.
It's a remarkable story, and I'm certain we haven't heard the last of it. Thanks for talking to us about it.
Pleasure.